All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to another Purposeful Conversations with Emmy here in the PAMI Code Facebook group. And I'm really excited to have this conversation today because I was actually checking out her business page and she was talking a little bit about soul liberation. And I was just curious, like, what does that mean? I've never heard of that before. So let me introduce to you today our very special guest, Zoe Owl. Zoe, hi.
Hi, good morning. Hi.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited with what you have to say about this. And just before we started, I asked you about your name because I was fascinated by your name itself. Zoe Owl. I mean, you chose that name, didn't you?
Well, it chose me and I chose it. It's a bit of a combination of both. So my legal name is Zoe Owl. It's not the name that I was born with, and it's not the name that I married into. But when I got divorced, it was my chosen name by choice, conscious choice, which was a big part of my soul liberation, actually. The most important and empowering thing that I've ever done for myself, which was stepping into my name. So, in my spiritual practice and my spiritual journey, my name is actually Shante Hin Han Win. So Shante is the heart, Hin Han is the owl, and Win is the woman. So inner heart owled woman, or inner owl for short. But obviously, in this world, I can't go around calling myself like that name. I'd probably get locked up. Uh, my name, who I am, the truth of who I am, the essence and the core of who I am, to be in my name. So it was a really empowering, liberating, joyful, fun experience to say, right, I can call myself whatever I want.
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to
And
myself. So
that's actually what attracted me to you as well. I've been seeing you on Facebook. It's like, oh, what an interesting name, Zoe Yao. Let me check her out. And it brought me to your page. And looking at your page, you actually put on there, you said that you're a visionary guide bridging the clinical and spiritual approaches in guiding you home. That did attract I found that quite attractive because you're connecting the clinical and spiritual. So could you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you come about doing this?
yes, certainly. I'm definitely what's known as a bridge soul, so bridging the clinical and the spiritual together. But just to go back to the name, sorry, so stepping into my name was the most empowering, liberating thing, and it was natural. It was so. I was actually with my young son, who wasn't that old at the time, and I was saying, "Mommy's going to choose a new name. What am I going to be?" And we were laughing, we were having fun, and he
He
was
was
saying,
choose helping you.
"Flamingo," and
Imagine that.
exotic names. We were having fun. We wasn't serious about it at all. But obviously there was a serious element. And then it was, well, I'm an owl. I know I'm an owl. My totem spirit animal is owl. And when I said, well, I'm an owl, Zoe Owl. And it's very powerful because names are very powerful. My name goes out before I go out. It's an energy, it's an imprint. So there's a lot of balance in my name, 3 letters and 3 letters.
Yes.
And so when somebody says my name, you'll all be familiar with the cocktail phenomenon effect, where if you're in a room and somebody says your name, I never registered with my other names,
Mm.
whereas my chosen name, when somebody says Zoe Owl, my attention is there, and so it's very, very powerful, and it's the essence, it's the blueprint of who you are. So, we're going into a new age now where I think people have a lot more freedom to, we're
To
co-creators.
choose, yes. But to be perfectly honest with you, with my name, Emmy Vida, I think my parents actually chose well. I love my name. Since I was, since I could remember, I loved my name. It's just life. It is, it's the Spanish word for life. And I've completely embraced it since I was born. And okay, some people are asking where I'm really from. Are you from Latin America? Are you from Spain? Or but no, it's
You're
I
from
feel I'm
your
from the
world,
Philippines. I'm from the Philippines originally. That's where I was born. But I feel that yes, it's
very
very,
worldly.
yeah, that's right. It's global. It's quite international in its feel, and I've embraced that with me coming from the Philippines, moving here in the UK, being a Filipino migrant, marrying into a Greek man, there's something quite global and embracing life. And I've always associated that with embracing and embodying my name. And I have my parents to be thankful for, for giving me that wonderful name. But yeah, for
And
you, Zoe Owl, I mean, coming up with that name and having the creativity and courage to actually do that, that's really cool.
I
So
sorry, and my first name Zoe is actually a Greek name as well. It means life.
all
So
right, oh, look at that.
that love is.
And yes, and you were actually talking about soul liberation, and you're talking about your own soul liberation. So could you take us through your journey, just so we get a sense of where you came from and how did you get to this point?
Yes, well, I started off in psychology. I was very curious and interested about people and how life and everything works. So um, I did an undergraduate degree and a postgraduate degree in psychology. And it was always very interesting. It was always very fascinating. I was very drawn to the clinical side. So I did a lot of work in prisons, in mental health, psychiatric wards, in school exclusion units, and was very much interested in the institutions and how
Mm.
the soul, the person journeys through these institutions and just how it all works, basically. And so I got a good clinical academic grounding, but it was never enough. I knew there was so much more. There was so many more layers that I wanted to understand. And so I basically went traveling. I went on a big around the world trip for a couple of years. And that took me to some very indigenous cultures and, experiences that were very different to anything that I'd ever had. And I was on the personal journey, and I was doing my own personal finding out who I am and my own development. And that's what I share in some of my books, because I think in the sharing of our own journeys, it helps people, it helps trigger things, it helps consolidate things for people, because life is full of paradox. I've come to understand in my old age, that we're all unique. We're all very different. We're our own unique individual selves, but we're actually all the same as well, and we're all on the same path. We're all actually having the same journey, but just in different expressions, unique expressions. But that really fascinated me as well. So it was wonderful to combine the clinical, the psychological, with the more esoteric and
Yeah,
spiritual.
because that's your grounding, and it's the same for me. My background is in psychology as well. Did an undergrad and came here to the UK to do my postgrad in health psychology. And for me, being in academia for more than 20 years, I felt it was quite limited, that there's so much more that we haven't really explored. And now that um I would I probably would have to say liberated as well. I've liberated myself out of the confines of academia. It opened up my perspective, and it shows me there are so many different ways that our experience as humans, there are different ways that it manifests, but different ways to talk about it as well. And yeah, I'm just really fascinated when I actually stepped up and say, okay, this is quite limited. Let me see what else is out there, and let's explore. And I'm just really amazed with what I'm discovering right now. You're probably a little bit further into the journey, but for me, I find it really exciting to learn more about this. Was there any specific point in your life, or a trigger in your life that made you want to explore more?
There's always triggers. Curiosity is my day-to-day trigger, but it's fascinating what you're saying, and I think that there's many of us, similar souls to us, that have come from this psychological academic background and used it as a stepping stone, because that's intellect, that's mind. But the journey, the biggest journey that any of us ever take is from head to heart. And so when we're in an academic environment, we're very much in the intellectual headspace. Then the personal, spiritual journey will take us down into our heart. And when we can marry both of these aspects together, that's when we're in our power. That's when we're in flow. That's when we're on form. That's when we're creating from a much higher perspective.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that I'm still trying to learn because coming from an academic background, it's all about logic, trying to find everything evidence based. How does this work with my senses, with my vision, with what I hear, with what I can taste? But there's so much more to that, and learning how to balance your intellect and your heart, this is something that I'm still trying to learn. And I think the more that I learn about this and the more I learn how to balance, I think the more nurturing or the more enriching my perspective on life will be. Did you struggle when you were going through this journey, or did it just flow naturally for you?
Struggle is not a word I would use. Exploring, adventuring, there's no such thing as mistakes. Mistake is an illusion. It's just learning. We're just, it's aspects of the path that we're discovering and we're mapping, if you like. And so sometimes you've got to go and get lost in order to get found. Another one of life's wonderful paradoxes. And so I'd just say that I would say that I was just more curious, more following my intuition, my curiosity. But I'm very deeply grateful for the logical sort of training launch pad that I had, because what I do now is I combine both so that my heart-centered work is structured, and it has that specific structure. And I think that's the way. I think it's the union between the two, is the magical place to create from. And it's a journey. I think we're all on that journey. We're all the same. We go about it in our own unique, different ways, but we're all going from head to heart.
Yes, I've been having this conversation with my husband, talking about intuition and actually talking about people's spiritual journeys, particularly empaths. And there's a lot of skepticism and cynicism when we talk about the spirit, and when we talk about the soul, and when we talk about heart-based work. But I think there's research now, especially in neuroscience, for example, that could actually bridge that, to have that dialogue, to have that conversation. And for me, I think the more we gather more discussions, the more we engage in these discussions, the less I don't know if the right word I'm gonna use is woo. Like some people describe it as woo, and when they say it's woo, it's not something that we should be talking about. So what is your perspective on this, when it comes to having that dialogue?
Yes, my understanding is that the intuition aspects is typically a more feminine. And when I say feminine, I don't mean it's only for women, only for females. It's not gender restricted.
It's the energy.
It's the energy. All men and women have got masculine and feminine in all of us to different degrees. But the intuition is typically the more feminine energy. Logic is the masculine energy. And we need both. I think that's, undisputable that we agreed that we need both. But the system that we've been in, and this is for millennia, this is for
many,
has been very masculine. It's been very logical. It's been very scientific. It's been very patriarchal. And the feminine, the divine feminine aspects have been very much suppressed. But we're on a changing time now where the feminine aspects are coming forward more seen in an equal way to the masculine aspects. So intuition, it's as powerful if not more than, with our reason and our logic. But when we use both, that's when
That's where the magic happens.
magic is.
Yeah,
Yes.
I actually I had this conversation with the previous guest, Vanessa Smith. She's also a guide, and I from that conversation I was saying that, yeah, the mainstream for the past several thousands of years really is
Yeah.
the logical, the evidence based or scientific method. I mean, even in psychology, I mean, this was one of my frustrations as an academic, because I'm a qualitative researcher. I do community based work. I don't do lab based work. I don't say that there's no value in it. Of course, it's important to have lab based work, stats, and so on. In fact, I actually do teach stats, as a lecturer. But
It
I
all has.
had a lot of frustration because my key work is grounded field work, qualitative research, and my colleagues who were leaning towards the numbers and stats and lab based stuff, it's like, where's the science in this? How do you say that this is psychology? But actually, there's value in having those discourses, those conversations, that even if it is not numerical, or they would label it as it's not scientific,
Yes,
that's where you see people's lived experiences. And in the
absolutely.
same way, when we balance as you said, the masculine and the feminine energy, that's where we can actually see a more holistic picture of
Yeah.
what's going on. And
Yeah.
now I'm finding this in my practice as well, because I'm also a self-publishing coach. And what I find is I'm trying to balance the masculine and the feminine energy in such a way that I used to be very data driven. So I will tell people, do your keyword research, see what people are looking for, and see how many people are looking for those particular books. If you get several thousand searches per month, those are your keywords. That's good, that's evidence based. But at the same time, if it doesn't have heart, even if the data is showing you something, if you don't feel anything, it's
Yes,
not gonna work. People
definitely.
won't be drawn to it if it is just all cold numbers.
I mean, and even in psychology as a subject itself, which is only a couple of 100 years old, which if you look on the clock of time since we understand, since humans have been around, it's like 1 minute to 12, not even 1 minute to 12 midnight. So psychology as a discipline, as a science, isn't actually that old,
It's
but you
very
need
young.
the quantitative and the qualitative within the subject itself. And yes, I hear you completely, because people make decisions from the heart, even if they're not consciously aware of it, because that's connection. And we're all connecting all the time, what we resonate with, what we don't resonate with. We might not logically understand why or where that's coming from, but it's like when you meet somebody and you get an instant sense
The
that, oh,
energy, yeah.
yeah, they, one way or the other. I'm just going to give extreme examples, but they give me the heebie-jeebies. Oh, I've got to move away from this person. I've not
Can't
spoken with
explain why.
them, so I can't logically say why this is so, but energetically, I just feel this. Or on the opposite, we can connect with somebody and I feel like I've known you my whole life. I feel like I know you inside out. I've never met you. I've never had one word conversation with you, yet I'm so drawn to you, and it can be really powerful. I've had those connections, people have said, oh, I just want to touch you. And I just like,
The energy is just there.
logically, that would seem crazy. That would seem really bonkers, but it's coming from the heart. So it's very, very powerful. So when we learn to master both of those aspects, that's when we're really flying.
That's wonderful. And actually, if we go into the soul liberation concept again, why do you call it soul liberation? Is there like a prison that people need to, to be liberated from, or why is it called that?
Yes, I believe that we put ourselves in our own prison. We limit ourselves with our own thinking. We have limiting beliefs that sure we pick up from a young age. If people are caregivers and the media and the social world and our teachers, the world around us, is giving us negative messages, of course we're going to, you know, pick up those, and they go deep into the subconscious mind, and we can believe, you know, other people's opinions of who we are and what we're like. But we also put ourselves in our own prison, and we need to liberate ourselves from this. It's an illusion. It's, you know, in the Buddhist tradition, they call it Maya, the false illusion, you know, that's around. And there's a wonderful picture. There's a little boy with, it says before awakening and after awakening, and he's holding a welly boot. That you just see the picture of the welly boot like crushing down his head. And then that's before awakening. And then after awakening, he's holding his own hand in the welly boot, you know, that's pressuring it down. And that picture is so simple, and it's so powerful.
Interesting.
Yeah, that, you know, we are divine beings. We are pure, infinite, pure potential beings. We're here having a human experience. We're not humans trying to be spiritual and divine.
We are spiritual beings living a human life.
Yes, and we're here to experience all things in the physical third dimensional matter. And so when we, you know, part of the journey makes us fall asleep to that, to remembering and knowing who we really are. So my role, what my life mission and my purpose is to help people reawaken to the simple truth of who they are as a divine being.
To remember who they are.
Remember, they already know on a deep subconscious level, but because of all the conditioning and because of the journey in the third dimension that they've been through, they have come to believe many false beliefs of who they are. So it's about actually unpacking the mistruths of who they are, to get to the raw diamond, the light that's in there underneath, buried, you know, underneath all of this labels, basically. Labels.
Yeah. And if someone wants to rediscover, you know, to remember, what is the initial first step? If they've been triggered and they felt, I think it's time for me to remember who I am, how do they go about doing that?
Well, the power of intention is extremely important. When you make an intention and you have divine will, so when you will something to happen, as in you want it, and you think that, you say that to yourself or to somebody else, you are putting out that intention into the universe. The universe, by the law of the spiritual law, the law of the universe, it has to respond to every action. There's a reaction. So to your intention and your will, the universe has to respond. So automatically you've got a shift there. So somebody will come into your life, you'll be drawn to a certain book or a certain workshop or a certain
I lost. Yeah, okay.
Lost you there. You'll be drawn to a certain event, or you know,
the opportunity suddenly open up.
Something will present that will put you in that energetic field that you can then, it's stepping stones. It's about stepping each stone at a time, and it's taking you to your core, your goal.
And it's really just responding to what is presented to you after you've made that intention, after you've put it out there. What is it that you want?
Yes, you must take action.
And respond. You have to respond, because I think that's a misconception with some people who just who practice law of attraction. You know, they will present their wants and desires into the universe, and then when the opportunities come up, they don't respond.
Yes.
They don't take action. So you really still need to do something. You don't just put it out there.
Fixed idea of what that looks like and the shape and form that must come in, and the universe works in mysterious ways. It works in miraculous ways. So what you want, what you need, might not be what you want. I said that wrong.
That's
Um,
right. What
may,
you need is not necessarily what you want.
yes, and it
You
may.
may be asking for something that you want, but
Uh,
you're being given what you
I
need. Is that?
you actually need, yes, and so the universe will deliver opportunities to you in the form, you have to be able to read the signs and see the signs, and it's about mindfulness. It's about being aware and being open and not judgmental, not having judgment again, which is coming out of the mind space.
Mm.
Being open in the heart space and seeing opportunities more openly, and diversely for what
And
they are.
yes, I think drawing back from our conversation earlier, this thing about reading it energetically, I think this is something that people, including myself, are still trying to come to terms with, because when you're presenting with something, your mind goes pros, cons, they do a SWOT analysis and so on. But but energetically the answer is there automatically on how
Yes,
you need to respond. So being able to marry the two, as you've said, it's important, because from our training from school, and from the mainstream right
yes,
now, it's usually okay, logic up, okay, this is how I'm going to make my decision, weigh the pros and cons, look at all the factors involved. Maybe that's just how I think. Maybe other people aren't, but in terms of making the choice from an energetic reading of what's going on, that's still something that people need to learn how to use, and make the decision, and act upon it based on the balance of the two.
yes. And I think the other big aspect there, Emmy, is self-awareness. So it's becoming self-aware. So the best medicine that you can ever take for yourself is meditate. Meditate, meditate, meditate. In whatever shape or form that is for you, whatever works for you. There's
Mm,
no one correct way, there's no one best way. People, it's about going that royal
to
road
that
within.
space, yeah.
Going, because there's so much going on. We're bombarded, with so much, especially at the moment in our external world, that we need to have some time where we go inward, which is what the owl is all about, going inward. It's the creature of the night, rather than the day. And so that going within through your meditation, whether that's sitting and omming, or whether that's jogging,
Mm,
whether it's cooking, whatever works for you, where you just switch off to all of this external stimuli
mm.
is bombarding you, social media,
To have
notification.
that place of calm and stillness, to give you
You
that space to refresh your mind.
Absolutely. So that's a question of discipline. That's a question of self-discipline, to say, no, I am taking this hour, this one half an hour or 1 hour of my day for myself, where I am not available to the world, to anybody. Do not disturb. And you're doing your thing and you're meditating. And in that time, you're connecting with the higher source, you're connecting with the infinite, the universe, the power, the all that is. And when you do that, you get enough energy to then, you address your day and deal with all this external stuff that's going to bombard you every day, um, you know, every week and every month and every year. So it's so incredibly important to have that meditation time. And in that time, that's a big part of the journey of where you're becoming self-aware of who you are, and you can connect clearly and purely with the direct infinite source.
I think that's really important. I mean, these days, you're right. We're bombarded with so much information, and sometimes we also try to figure things out ourselves. Like our mind just keeps going around in circles, weighing everything. Trying to see all the different outcomes, trying to figure things out, and it can get so muddled that you couldn't really find the answer. But when you
Yes,
meditate, you just stay calm and be still, and just be in that space of yeah,
clarity.
tapping in of clarity. That's right. It's actually taking the burden off you,
Yes,
recognizing that you probably don't have all the answers, and when you tap into that, infinite source of wisdom. It's recognizing that just be still, be calm,
Yes.
don't worry.
I love that saying that we are drowning in information, but we are starving for wisdom.
Mm.
Wisdom is inside us. It's not something out there that we need to go and seek and find in an external way. We need to connect into the truth of who we are and find it within ourselves. It's inside us. It's buried like a seed deep inside us. And it's about unpacking all those layers and on the top to get to
And
the
when you meditate, that's where you tap into that. I mean, for me, I really love going out in nature. Just going out for the walk, for a walk, without any stimulation from social media or anything like that. Just to be with nature and just having that sense of space and calm outdoors. It works great for me. For some people, they can just sit still and meditate. Doesn't work well for me. I could end up, just staring at the clouds. That works for me as well. But as you've said, there are different ways to meditate. It works in different ways for different people, and whatever
yes,
works for you,
yes.
you
And that
know.
journey within itself, like your meditative practice will change over the years. Like in my like early 20s, I used to do a lot of group meditations, go to like retreats, and I found that it was when I was a beginner, it was very helpful with other people in a group, Buddhist sort of retreats. That's where I learned to meditate. But then the journey became more solo as I went on, because you've got the skills, you've got the technique right. It's
Mm.
scientific aspect to meditating as well. There's the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine energy to everything. That's how we have the universe, how we have it. And so your practice will, and some days you want to just sit still, in the lotus position. Other days you might want to, as you say, be immersed in nature and go for an active walk, and you get what you need. There's no right and there's no wrong, but the most important thing is to take that time for yourself, to allow the universe to show you, to give you the answers. Because no, you're right, we don't have all the answers. We're infinite, but paradoxically at the same time we're like as Rumi
A
says,
little.
we're a grain of sand.
That's
Yes,
right.
in the ocean, but at the same time we are the whole ocean, because we're connected to everything. So we're not going to get all the answers from logic and from mind. We have to connect with the universe,
The
the source
source.
of everything that we are a part of, to get an answer from a higher perspective.
I mean,
And
I'm coming from a very religious background, coming from the Philippines. It's a Catholic country, and we've always taught how to pray. And I think for these communities, praying is a way of meditating. Actually, it's
contemplate, yes,
yeah, it's being in that space where you actually just offload and speak and tap into that space as well. So whatever works. I know
yes.
that members of our community, there are a lot of Filipino, devout Catholics in the group. So for some people, Buddhist practice works. We have also members who are Muslims. All the prayers. This
But
is
that's just all different expressions of the same source. So if you believe, love is my religion. If you ask me, I don't have a religion, but if I have to give a forced choice answer to what my religion is, I'd say love. And love is in all. It's in all things. And the religion is like the tool. It's the way that we're accessing the pure love. So it doesn't matter what dressing or clothing or materials or tools you use, just as long as you get there and you tap into that pool of love. And if you're coming from heart and you're coming from a pure place, you can love and accept all of your neighbors, all of the different religions, all of the different creeds and forms in whatever, they're just different expressions, but we're all actually the same. It's oneness. We're all connected at that pure source.
I love that. And yeah, it's just embracing, yes, the diversity. It's just different expressions of the same infinite source. But anyway, Zoe, thank you very much for joining us today. If people would like to reach out and get in touch with you, know more about you and what you do, where can they find you?
Yes, if you go to my website, it's probably the best thing, which is just my name, pure and simple, www.zoeowl, one word, zoeowl.com. There's all the information in there. It's got all my books. I run workshops, events. I offer hypnotherapy, which can be done online. This is a tool that we have, that the media world and technology. I also do readings, oracle readings. So if that's something you would like, you're interested in to receive some guidance, if you have a question, that you're not sure about and you want to connect more on that, then please get in touch with me via my website. I would say would be the best thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Zoe. And to those of you who are listening today, I hope you found value from our conversation today. For me, the takeaway message really is try to find the balance. When it comes to soul liberation, it's first remembering who you really are, making that intention to find who to remember. Actually, it's not really to find, it's already there. Just to remember who you really are, but it's also recognizing that there needs to be a balance. We are in this mainstream paradigm where logic is king, but actually we have to recognize a queen as
There is
well.
a
Yeah, there's
well,
a queen, and we need to learn to find the balance from your mind and your heart, and see the balance between the two.
yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
What feels right, even if it doesn't make sense in the mind logically, but it feels right. If it feels right, it is right. Feeling is healing. It's the way. So yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thanks, Zoe, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch up again next time for another purposeful conversations here in the Pami Code Facebook group. Until then, take care and bye, everyone. Bye.